So again, welcome and thank you again for your patience in getting started. If you haven't taken the poll, please go ahead and do that. And yeah, welcome to engaging the next generation of land stewards. We'll talk a little bit more about Woodstock Union High School's craft program and the Green Mountain Technical and Career Center Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems program. So before we do that, just in case folks aren't familiar, I'll talk a little bit about Vermont Land Trust and what we do at VLT. And as well, introduce myself. So my name is Sam Graltzy. I'm the events manager with Vermont Land Trust. And yeah, VLT has been around since 1977. And since then, we've protected over 640,000 acres. And that's about 11% of the state. And we do that mainly protecting forest land, land that's important to communities, productive farmland, as well as rivers, wetlands, and floodplains. I'll talk a little bit more about the end about the work that VLT does and how you can support us, but we'll kind of leave it at that. I'm going to now do a quick overview of what we're going to do. So today we're going to do some introductions, introduce all of our different panelists. We're going to have a little overview of each of the different programs. We'll have a discussion and have hear a little bit more about what the programs are, what they do, how people feel about what they do. And then there'll be time for you to have some questions and answers answered. So instead of having folks raise their hands then, what we're going to do is use the Q&A feature of Zoom. So you can, down at the bottom of your screen, if you click Q&A, you can add a question in there. At the end, I'll see what questions have come in, potentially combine or synthesize some, and we'll have the panelists answer them at the end. Also, if you see somebody else's question that you're interested in, there's a little thumbs up button, and you can kind of upvote those as well. So if there's one that you're really interested in hearing, feel free to give that one a thumbs up as well. There is also a chat feature, so if you have any issues or something like that, feel free to send me a chat, and we can work through that as well. So yeah, we'll do our panelist introductions right now. Again, if you haven't answered the little poll to see who's in the room, we'll share the results of that at the end of our panelist introductions. But maybe we will start with Peter. Would you like to start and give an intro?
Sure. My name is Peter Van Loan. I'm the Forest Program Director at Vermont Land Trust, so responsible for forestry across the organization, and have done a little bit of work with the folks from the Woodstock High School at one of our properties in Woodstock. Passing on to Sam Rowley.
Hey, so my name's Sam Rowley. I'm the instructor for the Green Mountain Technology and Career Center Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems program. I need a great acronym like the craft people have, but I work for Green Mountain Tech. That's the tech center for this region, and I'm lucky enough to run my program on a huge Vermont Land Trust property. This is one of my students, Felix. Every day we come out here and get to work on this real running farm. So it's a pretty good experience for the students, and it's a good use of the land. We practice, all kinds of animal husbandry and vegetable production. So I don't want to go too far. I'll pass it down to Kat.
Hey, I'm Kat Robbins. I'm the place-based learning coordinator at Woodstock High School in a joint position with the National Park Service, Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Historic Park in Woodstock. And through that, I get to coordinate the craft program, which we'll hear about in just a minute.
I'm Joaquin. I'm a junior at Woodstock High School, member of craft here for about 2 years.
Yeah, I'm Priscilla. I'm also a junior. Yeah, I've been in craft since freshman year. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to end the poll, and I'll share the results. So can you all see the results of the poll? So we've got some teachers. We've got a lot of land stewards on here, and a lot of other. I realize this doesn't allow you to put what the other was, so I guess we all contain multitudes. Some folks are interested in potentially starting a program in their own community, which is pretty cool to see. And then a pretty good spread of folks from across Vermont, as well as joining from outside Vermont. So thank you all for joining us. And yeah, so I think I'm going to pass it over to Sam and Felix to talk a little bit more about their program. As they're talking, I'm going to share some photos of their program just so you can kind of get a sense of what their program looks like.
So as I said, we have this this agriculture program out on a Vermont Land Trust property. One thing that's kind of unique with the Green Mountain Tech is we still have a all day, all year program. So I'll let Felix talk at some point, but this is their second year, and they've been here. So they come every day, all day, basically all day long, and just really get that like hands-on experience dealing with our animals and the cold weather and the hot weather and all those things. But Felix, why don't you say some of the things about the program?
We do a lot of stuff. It's like more than agriculture. We do safety trainings. We take care of our animals, obviously. That's a big part. We grow and sell produce, which is another big part. We do all sorts of different stuff. We did the dendrology course last year.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. So because we're a tech center class, we incorporate college classes into our program through a dual enrollment or fast forward program. And so throughout the year, these students, last year, we were able to incorporate 2 college classes through VTSU, a intros to soils and then a dendrology class. So these students leave, last year I had the opportunity to have a forestry teacher co-teach. And last year these students ended up leaving with like 8 college credits and 2 classes. So it's just, one of those things that the tech centers are really geared to doing is just trying to prepare those students for when they leave high school, they're just more attractive to the job force, or they're a little bit more able to kind of start their own business. The trainings that Felix was talking about, one of them it was a 4-day game of logging chainsaw training. That's one of the courses, one of the trainings that students engage in. And then, some of the other things I feel like that we do is sales.
Yeah.
We just finished our annual Thanksgiving veggie box sale, where we basically just try and sell as much for all of our produce, right before Thanksgiving. And this year broke more records there. It was $30 bundles of 20 pounds of vegetables. And last year we had our high was like 60 of those packages. This year we broke the record by another 10. So, every year the community is just really supportive and interested in getting the high quality vegetables for a good price and supporting the program and supporting their local farmers. So, but Felix, like what other things, you're really interested in the animal aspect, right? Can you talk a little bit about some of the things you've been doing to care for our animals?
Yeah. So my main goal is to go to college to be a vet. So I joined the program because they're live animals, and I've been getting to know how these animals behave and just getting to know the animals. So we make sure to take very good care of our animals. Our cows are rotationally grazed, very healthy. We check them over, look for ticks. The goats, I have a couple projects with the goats. We need to check them for worms. We need to make sure that they aren't eating directly off the ground because that causes worms. We have them in the barn now because it's winter. They don't have any brush to eat. So they've been getting hay. We give them minerals to make sure that they stay healthy. And then the chickens, they're chickens. You know, if there's a sick one, we take it down to the barn, take care of the chicken till it gets better.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. Sometimes,
You know, stuff
sometimes
happens.
they don't do good. But right now we have 2 chickens down there. And they're slowly getting better. But yeah.
Yeah, so just being outside every day, those are the things that, the students need to be able to understand. That's what they're going to have to do if they come to this program. Because, if it's yesterday morning it was 12 degrees out, and we just suit up, go out there, we check on the animals, collect the eggs. We try and have a diversified program, so we're selling eggs pretty regularly. We're selling the produce, like I said. We try and get it all, as much of it done in one big sale. But then this year it was particularly bad for us for potatoes. But so normally we would have thousands and thousands of pounds of potatoes that we're basically slowly doling out to our school cafeteria through the year. But this year we're gonna have plenty of squash to sell them. So it is, we do kind of generate revenue, and the students get to participate in that, which I think is a great opportunity, so that they can kind of see, what it takes to make money, what the hard work is to make that money. And then, we use that money to kind of buy swag, sweatshirts and jackets and stuff like that.
I mean, the Thanksgiving sale was basically a fundraiser for us so that we could get good jackets and get them embroidered.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
And then also I'll just say, a lot of these pictures that are coming up are also includes the forestry class that we work with frequently. And some of the pictures are us participating at different events. We've already had an event this year down at the VTSU campus in Randolph. It was a soil and land judging competition with organized through FFA, which is our kind of student group. And these students, Felix and their classmates, did pretty darn well, I'd say. Out of there was over 150 other students there, and they placed 3rd in the state as a team. So I think that's bragging rights. They did pretty well, and also saying that we barely had they announced like, hey, okay, here's the soil date for the competition. We were basically in the middle of that whole chainsaw training program, so we had fewer days than we had hoped to kind of train for it. So they did a pretty darn good job. But so that's just kind of an overview of a little bit of the stuff we do, some of the organizations we're part of. Other things I'll mention, but then let's move on, is other things we do is we host school groups. So this year we've only really gotten to squeeze one school group in, but it was all of the 3rd grade classes from the elementary school, which is basically like through the woods from our site, Cambridge Elementary. They filled a bus with 3rd graders, and then we do a couple hours of walking them around in groups. We have stations. It's kind of we've got it down to what to do with these little kids, and they have a great time. The students kind of run them through the different stations, let them meet the different animals. And then if there's ever any time, you just give them a shovel and have them dig, because little kids love digging.
They really
Write that down. That's something to keep in mind. So anyway, I think Sam, how am I doing? Am I?
That's great. Yeah, we'll get some more details through the discussion. So
Okay, good.
Perfect. I think maybe Kat will pass it over to you all.
Great. My co-facilitator of craft, Janice Boble, is unfortunately sick today, so you'll have to hear me for a little bit. So craft stands for Community and Climate Resilience through Agriculture, Forestry, and Technology. We're in our third year of program implementation. And what it is it's a facilitated pathway of courses that students can engage in as they move through their high school career, with a focus on craft. And it's sort of like having a concentration or a minor in college, where you can curate a list of experiences and courses that allow you to take a deeper dive and focus on what you're interested in. I think you can move to the next slide. So we have a whole variety of students that engage in craft. We have students who are interested in going to college for like environmental policy. And then we have students who are looking at taking over their family farms or land business. And they have a lot of choice as they move through the program. And so they're not necessarily moving as a cohort. There's a lot of choice and flexibility as they move through the program, but we do pull together students in community-focused things multiple times a year. We go on retreats to different college campuses. We just got back from Paul Smith's up in the Adirondacks. We engage students in career panels twice a year, where we bring in a variety of experts on different topics and have them discuss how they got to where they are and how students might consider a similar career path. And then we have like fun things too. We're going to go sledding in January, and we have bonfires out by the garden and things that students can opt into. So we have about a dozen craft teachers that we work with in all different disciplines who have committed to integrating craft principles into their classes. Can you go to the next slide? So the way this program developed is that Janice and I received a fellowship from the Rowland Foundation in 2021, which gives us generous time and resources to be able to research what we might want this program to look like. So we actually got to visit Sam when we were doing our program research, which was really awesome to see. And we also, it gave us resources and time to work with lots of other teachers and students to figure out what this might look like at our school. We're not a tech center. We are a public high school. And so what can we do given the structure that we operate in? We had a lot of student voice. Priscilla was on our steering committee right from the get-go. And we talked with farmers and foresters and lots of different community partners from the Park Service and Farm and Wilderness and the Land Trust to try to figure out what this program might look like for us. So we're currently in our third year of implementation. So we sort of add another cohort of students every year. And so next year we'll be at our full level of 9 through 12. We do have a couple of seniors who are in the craft program this year who have managed to meet all of the requirements to be able to graduate with a craft designation at graduation. But next year we'll have 20 kids, I think, graduating with the craft designation, which will be our first like real big cohort that we're really excited about that. And in the future, we are looking at creating a learning lab at the Vermont Land Trust King Farm that would operate a little bit more like the Green Mountain Tech program, where students would engage in an immersive semester where they would go up to the King Farm for, depending on what our schedule looks like, maybe a half a day every day or every other day, where they could really be in community with each other and the land, diving much deeper into these topics without rotating between classes quite as frequently or needing to run by the bell. So that's our ultimate like vision of another component of craft that we hope to enact. Should we go to the next slide? So with students, and teachers, we came up with a few different values that we want to guide our program, and that I just revisited with teachers yesterday, actually, to say, how are these going? Are we doing these things? Are they still the right things that we value and want to embody? And so far, it seems like yes. So we've committed to creativity, play, and emphasizing systems thinking in all of our different craft classes. And the way we're going to make that come alive is through project-based, hands-on, active, and interdisciplinary learning. At the high school level, students are really bouncing between like data science and then Spanish 3 and then economics and the environment. And so it can feel like those things are disconnected. And so what craft does is try to be a little bit of the glue that connects those different classes and experiences together. So that it feels a little bit more cohesive and like you can take a step back and look at things from a systems-wide perspective, as opposed to siloing things, which is traditionally what happens in high school. Good. So another value that we have are connections to nature and the community. And so we try to get outside as much as we can and to partner with community organizations and experts whenever we can as well. So this is sort of how it plays out for students. Students need to earn 6 credits within this pathway to earn the craft credential. There's some foundational courses that all craft students need to take. Many within our agriculture department, which Janice is the instructor for. So Foundations of Agriculture, Food and Forest Systems. All 9th graders need to take integrated environmental science and wellness anyway. And so that is an easy 2 credits right there for them. And then we have an innovation lab that students should spend a semester in as well. And I will say that in all of these classes, there's both craft students and non-craft students. And so teachers are trying to figure out the best way to really implement the craft values and principles for all students. And then students have a lot of choice about, sorry, go back one, just real quick, Sam. Students have a lot of choice about how they earn their elective credits, and then they end with a semester independently driven project too. Okay. So these are some of the benefits that craft students get from the program. They get to go on a lot of field trips and really connect with the community in authentic ways. They're creating portfolios that are documenting their learning in all these different classes and experiences. And they get a hoodie when they earn 3 credits within the pathway. Go ahead. We have 4 S's that sort of guide our work in all the different craft classes. And these are the areas that we have students reflect on their portfolios in. So they may do like a macroinvertebrate survey in the river in their integrated environmental science class, and then they can go back to their portfolios and say, okay, so this was an example of stewardship because we were collecting data about the health of our river, and we'll submit this data to the local river partnership, so that they can make informed management decisions. So stewardship and sustainability are 2 of the S's. And then on the next slide, we've got systems thinking and service learning. And so our craft teachers are always thinking about how they're emphasizing these 4 S's in their classes. So that was an overview. And then through the generous support of the Rowland Foundation, we had funds to create this video that describes it well, where you'll hear some more student voices and get to see it come alive a little bit. But I promise Joaquin and Pia are going to be able to talk in just a few minutes as well.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing the slideshow and pull up that video. All right. Dun, dun. One second. It's always hard when you got to make the transition.
There'll be a quiz on what craft stands for. So hope you're studying that.
All right. Here we go. Oh, and actually one quick thing I need to do. Make sure you all can hear it. All right. So, Kat, let me know if you can't hear it.
One of our goals of CRAFT is to help foster students and future citizens who are just in touch with the world around them, both their people community and the natural community.
It stands for Community and Climate Resilience through Agriculture, Forestry, and Technology. We're not expecting each student to leave here and either be a farmer or a forester. There's lots of different pathways.
The hands-on learning we do is such a great change, and our food systems and our forests. It just made me realize like how important this stuff is to us.
Food, but the form of food that they consume is wood.
Young people are sort of hit over the head with the doom and gloom of climate change. We try to share the reality of what's happening, but then foster skills and knowledge that will allow them to feel a little more hopeful about the world they're stepping into.
My favorite part of craft is the way that I can go home and really apply what I've learned. We live in such a heavily forested area, and it's cool to be able to go outside and know what you're looking at, as well as bringing really good opportunities to career paths that you might not have even thought of.
They are doing the inoculation steps, so that is the drilling, the filling, and the sealing. We're basically putting the seed of the mushroom inside of the log. When I went to school here, I went on a field trip where we actually did exactly what we're doing here. We inoculated shiitake logs. And from that experience, I knew that mushroom growing, and that type of agriculture was definitely going to be a part of my life. This is proof of place-based learning working. So it really allows students like myself to kind of open their eyes to opportunities.
We work with about a dozen teachers to offer classes that really emphasize helping students become environmental stewards. So we look at things from an economic perspective, from a healthcare perspective, from a sustainability perspective. And so that's where classes like economics and the environment, AP environmental science, AP statistics, data science, eco art all come into play.
We're understanding the big picture. So much like a typical social studies class, we're looking at big issues, big environmental issues, but we're looking at them through an economic lens. Hopefully to get their minds changed that, well, actually, maybe we can solve some of these environmental problems with economics. I think anyone can be in the craft program. Absolutely.
Anyone is the ideal candidate to do craft because we really try to make it so that there's a diverse range of students in our program.
We think that craft gives kids something unique and different that sets them apart as high school students when they're going to an employer or a college interview.
We really want to make it an opportunity for any type of student who is wanting to take this deeper dive and really learn about what sustains them.
All right. So I think with that, we might transition into some more of the discussion-based part of the program. And again, I would encourage everybody, if you have questions of your own, feel free to pop them in that Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. But I'll pass it over to Peter to lead the discussion.
Great. Thanks, Sam. That was a really great introduction to both programs. I wish I had something like this when I was in high school. I certainly would have signed up. But with that in mind, I'm wondering if the students could tell us a little bit about what it is that drew you to this program. What made you decide you were going to make the leap and sign up? Maybe we can start with Felix.
So what really drew me to the program was, one, it's outside. I didn't like being stuck in a classroom. I wanted to be actually doing something that I felt was worth my time. So I came here to get outside and move around. And because of the animals, because like I said previously, ultimately I want to be a vet. So the animals have been a really big help to kind of just learn about their physiology, how their digestive system works, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, I joined crafts a little through my freshman year in high school. And I heard about it and I was like, wow, this is a unique opportunity, and just presents like a really great, opportunity to learn more, expand your knowledge on these certain topics. And so I think I joined because I wanted to dive deeper, as the video said. I mean, you really get a chance, you get exposed to new things. You learn just so much about, systems thinking, sustainability, and you tie it all right back into those craft values. It's great.
Yeah. I actually live on a dairy farm and I've grown up there. And so when I heard about craft when Kat and Miss Boble were planning it when I was in middle school, I was really intrigued. I've always kind of had an interest in the natural world, and I thought it was a really cool opportunity to kind of have this like kind of stream through my high school career that was kind of very unifying for my interests and kind of focused and able to kind of guide me through.
Great, thanks. And maybe connected to that, can you each tell us a story about something that it sort of exemplifies what this program does really well? What you're really excited about with the program? Maybe we go backwards this time.
I mean, I'd say the opportunity to have career panels and just meet experts in the fields of research that we've looked into. I mean, we've had people who are experts in water, and water being such a big issue now. I think that was really valuable to learn about, and here we've got an opportunity to ask questions of them, learn about how they got into that role and what that role really does and how it affects our environment. So, I mean, again, just the opportunities is what I feel like craft does very well, just presenting you with opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, I would agree.
What do you think?
Like a story that really shows what this program is about, or part of what the program is about, is when I first came here to like check the program out and tour, I was in my sophomore year, I believe. I had never been up close to a cow before in my life. So it was kind of scary, but also really cool to step into the cow fields and get right up close to a cow. And a lot of kids that, like the elementary schoolers, have also never seen a cow until they come here. Like they get to see a cow up close for the first time. And it's really cool because they're all super excited. And they'll go right up to the cow and start petting the cow. There's like barely any fear there. So we need to set down rules. Or
can I just jump in, because I think that's a really good point. And I mean, like not everybody gets to live on a dairy farm. I forget your name from Kraft. You got to grow up on a dairy farm. You're like, no, I'm not milking cows my whole life. Or maybe you are, and I that would be great. But what I'm getting at is like, half of these students come in and they're like, oh yeah, I really want to be a vet, or I want to work with animals or something, and they just don't even have that like experience of daily. That's kind of why I think it's really important to have this like daily visit and interaction. I mean, sometimes you feel like it gets a little boring and mundane, but like really there's something new every single day. Even if you're going to just change the water out, there's observations to be had, and in the pasture too. I mean, you're getting to see, boy, how much rain have we had the past couple of weeks? Wow, these cows are back on this paddock where it's been a month, and we have like a month rotation on our paddocks. And, it's just really cool to kind of just see how the environment reacts to the grazing, or, if we had to leave them on an area for an extra day, what's it look like? And I just feel like, that's just getting, even if it's only, an all day, which is really only 5 hours, maybe max, for a school program, just to get that experience for the students to like be out there and have a little bit of that experience is so important.
So maybe switch to a question for Sam and Kat. I can imagine that this logistically is a pretty sophisticated program, and there are certainly a lot of challenges with getting a program like this off the ground and getting it running and keeping it running. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those challenges are and what some folks who might be thinking about trying to start something like this in their region might want to think about?
Kat, you want to go first? I think I could probably talk for a day straight about this, but
Well, I would say for as much as schools try to foster innovative thinking skills in their students, the school system itself can struggle with that sometimes. And so trying to create these really meaningful experiences for students within the really strict constraints of a public education system in terms of requirements and both financial and curricular based is not easy to do. And you have to really think outside the box and continually come back to those values and say, why are we doing this? And where are the ways that we can leverage and push on these things within the confines of the system that we're working in? I think we're really lucky here that a lot of our teachers are super passionate and really committed to doing this, even when it requires extra work on their part. I also think having, like, my position is really unique because I'm partly funded by the National Park Service, and I'm also not tied to the school bell schedule quite as much as most staff in the building are. And so I can go to teachers and say, how can I help you? And can I fill out those field trip forms for you? And I can do this grant application so that we can do this, take this trip or whatever. And so I think having someone whose responsibility it is to manage all of those extra logistics and communication and coordination is really important. I don't think that the program would be quite as cohesive or successful if it were relying on teachers who already have really, really full jobs and expectations to be doing that.
yeah, I think I agree with, just about all that stuff. The big thing I want to just highlight is the passion, I mean, I think it really, to keep these programs running, it just takes some teachers and people who are really passionate about what they want to do, what kind of program they want to create for the students to experience. Just this ag program that I run, I basically, they said, here's the keys, go, there's the place, it's at the end of this road. And then it's like, okay, what am I going to do? And I mean, my simple goal was like, I want to make the best darn ag program I can think of. And, I think I've done a pretty good job. It's just a lot of work. And, I make the joke that I sort of feel like it's a great life, but a little bit of indentured servitude, like I'm stuck here, I'm chained here, but it's awesome. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I love working with the animals. I love having the students all year, different students over the years. But the big deal is just like working within the school system is definitely a tough one. You gotta kind of fit it into that box. And it's really tough to just kind of keep a model farm sort of running. And then at the same time, like right after this, I have to go to a staff meeting back at the main campus and, sit there and talk about totally unconnected stuff. So, there's all those kind of added things. And then one last thing is just, I'll put it in there because it's a big deal, is the education funding. I mean, Kat mentioned that. And, you know, education funding is just something we got to figure out if we want quality programs like this. You know, they cost money. Nobody likes paying extra money, but you know, these are the things that cost money. And I think, you know, ask the students the questions, you know, see if it's worth it to them. I think it is. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think one of the things that came up for me when you were first talking, Kat, was the idea of helping kids to sort of think in a different way and think about and work on problems in different ways. And I feel like that is such an important skill. I do a lot of hiring at the Land Trust. And when I find people like that, they're really compelling candidates for our jobs. And so I'm wondering if the students can talk a little bit about like what skills you feel like you're getting from your program that you think will help you get a job in the real world, or get the job that you hope to get out in the real world.
For me, I think through the craft program, I was able to get an internship with the Marsh Billings National Park this past summer. And through that, I learned a lot. I got to spend a lot of time with professionals just in their daily work lives and shadow them and just like learn a lot about how they got to where they are, like what degrees they got, and in the national park at school, because a lot of people have higher degrees. And the kind of most important thing I learned was that a lot of people don't have linear careers and they just are kind of bouncing all over the place and just going wherever. And so it was really interesting to kind of realize that I don't have to have a plan for forever, and I can just kind of go where the opportunities take me. And I think that this program is giving me and our school students in the craft program a lot of opportunities, like the internship and just connections with professionals through the career panels. It's just opening up like pathways to get connected with jobs in the real world. So I think that's really meaningful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. While I haven't done an internship with the park, I definitely agree that what craft does well and what skills I can take away is like just trying new things, right? I mean, the classes that are offered are so diverse in like content, but they all connect right back to craft and the values that uphold craft. So yeah, just getting the opportunity to try new classes and just work at new things is great. It's definitely a skill I've appreciated developing through craft.
Is it my turn now?
yeah, what do you think?
What was the question again?
Yeah. Peter, you're muted. It
must be on the paper.
no, what was, give us a good summary again.
Yeah, so the question is really, are there things that you're getting from the program that you feel will be good skills when you're going out into the real world and looking for that job? That, for you, I guess, is that job as a vet.
Yeah, I mean, it's really helpful to have been working with animals that I wouldn't normally have worked with. I have my own chickens. I can work with chickens. I hadn't worked with goats since I was a kid, and I went to like a petting zoo, and I hadn't worked with cows at all. So now I kind of know their behaviors, what to do and what not to do. And also just even not for veterinary stuff, there's a lot of stuff that you have to work around. You have to find new ways to do things if something fails. Like, lots of machinery here on the farm. Sometimes it doesn't work and you need to go work on it so that it functions again, because if the baler stopped working, then we wouldn't be able to make hay bales for the cows during winter or make square bales for the goats. Like, it's a necessity to fix it.
That's great. I'm wondering if the students have questions for students in the other program about their experiences.
Maybe.
Yeah. So how many people are in this agriculture and forestry program at Green Mountain Tech?
6, well, 5 normal students that are first years, and then 3, including me, second year students doing co-op.
So you
And then
normal school work on top of your work. And that,
I don't
Cool.
anymore. I used to, but then I got enough credits to not have to do anything.
yeah, so Felix is basically a second year student who is a co-op student. So once you do a full year of any of the programs, you're a co-op student, which means you really should be going and working out in the field. And so I tried to spin it around so I could have Felix here as a, second year kind of like right hand person, to basically be able to say, like, you did this last year, go take these new kids, go do that up there. And it's worked out great. I think I've had that opportunity because Felix is basically done and could have graduated from high school at the beginning of this year. So,
Like even last year, I think if I had done my capstone last year, I probably would have graduated.
I will just say, and then you guys should talk, but in our tech center programs, we've been able to incorporate, we have like a separate English social studies teacher, but then within the daily academics and experience of the agriculture program, I integrate math, science, enough of that where the students can get a high school credit for that stuff. And then what else? They get if they need a PE credit, we walk miles every day. So we basically have figured out ways to kind of integrate some of the high school classes within the tech center programs. And I mean, I have to show evidence of that, obviously, but we calculate all kinds of math problems and do basically, all the winter months is anytime indoor is like a science class. We're doing all kinds of biology and animal science topics. And then the college coursework is kind of stuck in there. It's more than that. We're actually trying to keep it up to this rigor, but also get all the stuff done in the outside, and try and just connect it all together. So I hope that, and then I will just clarify, there's a separate class, which is the forestry class.
Yeah.
So we have a whole nother separate forestry class who has about the same number of students.
We do work closely with each other because we're both off-campus programs, but we are separate. I mean, we did Game of Login together so that we could both participate. We did it out here at the farm. So that was pretty cool.
And then we'll end up doing FFA competitions and events. That's our kind of student group that we're part of. And so we'll go to competitions, we'll go to events. We actually have a really cool outdoor wilderness first aid training that we're going to do next week with the forestry class and the allied health class. We have like a nursing class at the tech center too. So we're all going to kind of do 2 days of intense first aid training.
I have a question for the craft students. So are you taking craft in place of high school, or is it like alongside high school?
It's alongside high school. Like a lot of our craft classes are classes that you could take just normally as a student, but since we're in the craft program and they're like craft classes, they are kind of, it's like parallel, I would say, to like your normal high school career. Like I took AP Environmental Science last year, which is a craft class, but there's most of the class in there were not like craft students. And I'm taking AP Statistics this year, which is another craft class, which has like maybe one other craft student in it. And I think, yeah, our cohort is a bit smaller than I think some of the other ones because we're the first we're the first year, I guess. So, but yeah, it's just parallel, I guess.
It's parallel and it's like a focus on a study of like the whole craft
And I would,
values essentially.
yeah, I would say like the classes that you take kind of culminate to your capstone, which is like kind of the most focused thing that you do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can I ask, what are you all thinking for your capstone projects? Or is that what it is? Is our capstone project that you need to do, or maybe your participation at the National Forest was part of it, or?
Sort of. Your capstone's supposed to be like a semester independent study. Last year, I mean, I've kind of done two already. I'm TAing an AP Environmental Science class this year, and I did an independent study last year where I made a forest plot and I like kind of monitored it and just like took some data on it because I was curious about what was happening. I'm hoping next year to do an internship or something like that with a forester, but I'm not quite sure yet.
So I have another question probably for Sam. It's fleeting me now, but sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Did you guys get flooded? Your high school area?
Yeah, a lot of our lower sports fields did a few years.
In our whole garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not this past summer, but the summer before.
Gardens like
And so the garden was completely destroyed. And so we had to rebuild it all and do a lot of soil testing and infrastructure building and soil building too.
Yeah, that was my question for you. How did the floods impact your agriculture program?
Yeah, we're kind of right in the Jeffersonville is this like, valley right where the Lamoille and Brewster, which is the river that comes like off of Mansfield in our direction, converge. But luckily the farm is like the next level up from the valley, so we were pretty safe up here.
It rained a lot and that really affected our onion crops last year. The onions did not like that. And I don't remember how many other students were trapped at their houses because I live up on a hill. I was completely flooded in. So I think the power also went out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, luckily our specific site didn't necessarily take any damage, but obviously the roads connecting to us were impassable. It was kind of the first flood, just the way that the property is, it was the only access to get to this this housing developed complex. And so out of the blue, I'm just kind of like checking on things, and then these EMTs show up on 4-wheelers and they're like, "Can you get us through the woods? We need to walk out these people who are stuck in a house." So luckily the floods didn't damage our infrastructure, but yeah, as Felix kind of mentioned, it did. The wet weather did kind of
Just with their onions.
Yeah.
All the other plants were kind of okay, but the onions just basically turned into mush.
It was a bad onion year too.
Yeah.
We're looking at, it's given us an opportunity to explore riparian restoration along the Ottaquechee River, because it's it runs right through our campus. And so Janice is doing a project with students looking at planting native species along our riverbanks, really to try to combat the monoculture of knotweed and increase biodiversity and increase flood resilience too. So we're trying to use it as a learning opportunity and to think about the future too.
Cool. Yeah.
So I think we maybe have time for at least one more. I'm just wondering, sort of get what you were getting at a little bit there is, can you talk about a project that you did with a community partner and how that went and what the particular project was?
What do we have for a community project?
Maybe have the student visits.
Mm-hmm. And the veggies.
Oh, have you sell the veggies to them?
Yeah, we can mention those.
During my independent study last year, who was it between me?
Oh, what are their names? Chuck Fenton
And another guy came in, and they're working on like kind of reviving the American chestnut. And we got to work with them a little bit and kind of go through their, like, learn more about their process and how they're kind of making that work, which is really fascinating. They're doing some CRISPR technology to like kind of mutate it with the Chinese one? Chinese chestnut. So that was really fascinating that I was able to participate in last year.
Yeah, and they gave us a bunch of chestnut seeds that we sprouted in the greenhouse to varying degrees of success. And then we're looking at actually planting them at the King Farm and exploring what it might look like if we were trying to rehab chestnut into the landscape. There's a lot of folks doing it in sort of orchard style settings. And so curious about what it might look like in the actual forested landscape to reintroduce and try to support the chestnut trees up there.
I had the opportunity of going to Youth Lobby Day at the State House in back in, I think it was last year around March, April time, just as the legislative session was sort of winding down and they were scrambling to get bills to Governor Scott's table. That was through CRAFT. I believe we brought 2 other students to just talk with our local legislatures about environmental policy, our ideas on bills like the Climate Superfund Act, and just give our opinion to them, sort of lobby our legislatures. And we worked with a local group there, a lobbying group, who had a base camp right there in Montpelier. And yeah, it was a good day. Got to meet face to face with our legislatures.
I mean, we do quite a bit of community stuff. Like we sell our produce to staff members at the school. We
Cafeteria.
sell it to the cafeteria. We get kids out here. What else do we do?
I would say, even we probably could work on doing some more more extensive community projects. So, I mean, I think some of the stuff we are pretty lucky to have basically be sitting on like a 600-acre property right here, so there's plenty to do. And, I'm making excuses because I think we should be doing more off-campus stuff. And it's just hard to kind of squeeze it into the day when you do have quite a bit to do here. When we do our trainings, like the chainsaw one, we coordinate with the forester to so that the trees that we practice on, that we cut down, are part of the forest management plan. And so that's always a good time too, to walk around with him and see what's going on and get his perspective on how the forest is growing. And then, we know we're not just like willy-nilly cutting trees just to do it. It's we're leaving the coarse woody material in the woods. so that it can help the soil, so the forest soil. What do
Also,
you think?
we've been having 4-H
Oh yeah.
come out. They use like the classroom or just like a small space outside to just bring kids in and do projects out here,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. I got to hang out with them. The kids really like the goats.
They're really young too. It's a young 4-H group.
Like the oldest kid was 11.
That's so great. We're envious of your animals.
Yeah, it is something I like to brag about. We're like one of the few, high school aged programs that actually has resident animals. Definitely of this number. But I gotta tell you, it's a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, like all summer long, I'm like, oh my gosh, do we have 3 days of hay weather? Like I got a hay. And I mean, if we just bought the hay in, it would just be that much more expensive. I don't know. And then, stuff happens, like even simple, stupid stuff, like the frost-free hydrant broke,
Yeah.
like right before we went into this cold snap. And I'm like, oh, now we gotta, carry buckets of water,
And animals just get hurt and get sick all the time. We got to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it happens,
Yeah. And sometimes there's nothing we can do about it too. Because we don't have, I'm not a professional vet. I can only do so much.
No, me neither. I mean, but I feel like as far as the track records goes, I mean, just teaching like you provide a healthy ground for the animal to stand on. You give it sunlight, you give it quality feed, which is basically just hay.
Hay or grass.
Then the health issues are actually super minimal. I mean, we're not really running a production system either, so like it's not very taxing on them, but
we do run into issues sometimes.
yeah, issues arise, of course.
Especially with the chickens.
Yeah, here's my suggestion. As much as people want them, don't get any chickens.
They're fun, but then they can be they get all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Like one of the chickens in the barn has gapeworm, we think, which is just a parasite. And we're doing our best to fix it, but like we don't want to use like pesticides because that's kind of gross.
It was a chicken that was actually dumped on the side of the road at a pull-off, and I rescued it on a Sunday.
You rescued the other.
Okay, fine. I rescued the majority of them, and that one got away until Felix was able to just like grab it the next day. So, we live on these like back roads, and people come and they feel like it's a great place to get rid of some chickens. So,
yep.
Well, looking at the time, I think that's about all we have time for. There was one question about capstone project, but I think we pretty much covered that. So yeah, I'm gonna just quickly share a quick part of the slideshow. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for presenting as well. If you're interested in supporting VLT, we just wrapped up Giving Tuesday, but we are a membership-based organization. So if you're looking to support us, we would really appreciate your support. We do also have some upcoming events in January. We have 2 webinars, one on old growth forests, and one which is a really cool storytelling event about documenting the stories of places. And then in February, we have a Pride ski, which we're partnering with the Audubon, Vermont, and that's going to be in Williston. So head to vlt.org to check those out. But yeah, that is going to do it for our presentation today. And thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much to the folks from Green Mountain Tech and Woodstock for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Thanks,
a great
everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work up there.
It'd be great. We should try and get together. We should try and come visit you guys.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.